Trillium was built by Polson Iron Works in 1910. She became part of Lyle Solman's fleet of sidewheelers used to carry passengers to and from Hanlon's Point on Toronto Island. In 1926, she was sold to the Toronto Transit Commission, and in 1957, she was bought by Metro Toronto Works to be used as a garbage scow. But that decision changed. Instead, she was towed to a lagoon in the Toronto Islands, where she lay for 16 years. In 1973, money was secured for her rehabilitation. The man who headed the rehabilitation team was Gordon Champion.
The first thing to do was to get virtually a team of people from the various areas of specialization. I'm a marine engineer by training, and I needed a naval architect. I needed someone with specific knowledge of aluminum superstructures, because we had to place the wood, which is a fire hazard, with aluminum. Well, the other thing became very interesting in as much as finding bits and pieces, because the only way to do that was find people. And some of those people actually came forward, even by just knocking at my door and handing me such magnificent things as the builder's original nameplate that you see right here. It's the key item, I would say, the most interesting, the most valuable thing to have historically. And I've been working on the project for a matter of months. My doorbell rang, a gentleman was there. I didn't know the gentleman. He had a Loblaws brown paper bag with something pretty heavy in it, and he put it, he said, "I thought you would like to have this for the Trillium." And he was driving away before I realized that this heavy object was the original brass Trillium Polson Iron Works builder's plate. We were delighted. The enclosures behind the wheelhouses were, in the beginning, the captain's day cabin behind the wheelhouse, but he was making use of it in something manner not approved by Metro, of course, or the owner, and they were removed in about 1911. But we decided to put them back, except there's no roof on there, and we put our very unlike 1910 radar in that enclosure, and we can collapse it and it disappears out of view. Well, the life rafts did not exist in 1910. They had those funny-looking lifeboats with radial davits. Well, radial davits and that kind of lifeboat is no longer permitted today. And if we'd have taken those away, it would have spoiled the appearance. So we retained them by duplicating them with replica made out of fiberglass. And again, I had to find a person to do that, which was very interesting. They were done from a lifeboat we found in a shipyard around here that was the same type. There were no lifeboats left on the Trillium, so we found one similar, and we found a gentleman called Lau Broadfield who did it in his garage, virtually in his home. We couldn't find anyone else that would do the work, and for under $20,000 or $30,000 we finally found a man that would do it for $2,000 or $3,000. He did it extremely well, and he used this lifeboat that we found, 1910 class of lifeboat, very similar in all respects, and he made a pattern from that, from which he then lined that pattern and and came out with a fiberglass reproduction that you see, even with the little splinters and the nail holes and the fitting in it, and the grain of the wood is right there reproduced in that replica fiberglass lifeboat. Wonderful job. Parks Commissioner Tommy Thompson declared the first time he ever came aboard the old wreck over at the lagoon on the island that it must stay open so the public would have the full benefit of any money spent on restoration of rehabilitation of Trillium. And we had a major fright about this whole matter because our plans went to Ottawa for government approval and came back with a beautiful big stamp said approved. However, there were one or two small red notations. And when we studied this, we found that this whole area was to be enclosed in steel. Down went the project. We got on the next plane virtually and flew to Ottawa and asked why this area had to be closed in, because we would have to abandon the project. We'd already spent a considerable sum of money. And it was explained that it was thought to be a fire hazard. We sat down with the senior people in Ottawa. They were very cooperative, and we removed the fire hazard from the engine room below where we're standing at the moment, and we put all those items of fire hazard in the boiler room, which is fully enclosed and fully insulated, and then we were allowed to open it, as you have just said, as it always was.
The Trillium is now perhaps the oldest scheduled sidewheeler in North America.